Hello. So today we are going to talk about winter weight gain, as though the COVID-19, as they call it, hasn't been bad enough. But now here we are, shorter days, the days when people seem to be accumulating some fluff. It's what we always do in the winter. I know that I always do. So we thought this was a great opportunity as we're going into the holiday season, but any holiday has the same problem, whether it's July 4th picnics or whether it's Valentine's Day chocolates. It's that watch how do you avoid the holiday rush, the winter weight gain, all that sort of stuff. So I'm Sarah Heiner. I'm so glad that you joined me today. I will give my usual reminders that we have a growing library of these videos, either in the Facebook, in the Bottom Line Facebook page. You can see them in videos. If it's easier, we have a growing library in YouTube, not only of the longer videos, but we'll take kind of some key snippets out so that it's real easy to find some of the key points that the great experts make, so that if you want to go back to them or share them, that would be awesome. So go subscribe there. We also, don't forget that we have some downloads for you. They are free and they are so valuable. Number one, most important thing, you cannot be contagious with COVID if you do not get sick. You reduce your odds of getting sick if you have a strong immune system. And unfortunately, as important as masks are and as important as social distancing is, there's nothing also that replaces the power of our own bodies to protect ourselves and to reduce our risk of sickness. Now, sadly, you're not hearing about that on the news. You're not hearing about that from your doctors very often. But our editors, Bottom Line, put together a free download. There will be a link in the chat box. So click on that and download that to be able to see what else you can do to reduce your chance of getting sick beyond hand washing, social distancing, and masks. And then we have another download, actually, also pain. I don't know about you, sitting in my chair all day, hunched over, it's not so good for the body. And there are a lot of people with a lot of aches and pains. Stress increases pain. Bad posture increases pain. So we have another download for you. Again, share it, download it, totally free. Honest to God, I just want people feeling great and out there and being able to feel great, living their lives. So there's another download that you can download for free about pain. And I don't remember the name of it. God, I need the memory book. Anyway, but there's another download there so that you can learn things that you could do to reduce your pain, all sorts of pain in your body. So download that. If you have questions while we're talking to Dr. Lisa Young, then put them on in the chat box, and my friend Lauren is going to pass them along to me so that I can share them, get your questions answered. Lisa is so smart. She's been with us before. She's a long old-time friend of Bottom Line, and I'm thrilled that she's joined us today. So let me bring Lisa on. We are a tale of two weathers, actually, because in Connecticut, I've got 10 inches of snow. And Dr. Lisa Young is joining us from Florida. So lucky you.
It's great to be here. It's a pleasure. Always, Sarah. Always a pleasure.
Although I have to say, it's really nice. We haven't had snow here. I don't think we had any snow last year. So it's actually really nice. I was just on my daily walk in the park with my dog, and it was packed with kids and families sledding. And it was so great to see. So getting their vitamin D. We're going to talk about vitamin D in a couple minutes.
Great excuse to get outside.
Exactly. All right, let me introduce Lisa so that everybody knows how great you are. And I always read my bullet points, so I'm certain that everybody gets all of the facts. All right, so Dr. Lisa Young is an internationally recognized nutritionist and portion control expert, which is one of the most important things, as much as what you put on your plate, how much you put on your plate. She's an adjunct professor of nutrition in the Department of Nutrition and Food Studies at NYU, New York University in New York. You have likely seen her on TV, in the newspaper, magazines, you name it. Lisa has been interviewed in them, but I always like to say Bottom Line's the favorite, right?
Absolutely.
Of course. And Lisa is also the author of two fabulous books, Finally Full, Finally Thin, 30 Days to Permanent Weight Loss, One Portion at a Time, and The Portion Teller Plan, Eating, Cheating, and Losing Weight Permanently. And you can learn more about Lisa and all of her work at drlisayoung.com. So now, officially, hello.
Hello. And I'm from New York, so to be in Florida when there's a snowstorm in New York is always nice.
With all the gutter puddles, as I used to like to call them. Nothing worse than a splashy gutter puddle.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about it. So on average, people tend, when you Google it, the fact is that people seem to tend to gain 5 to 7 pounds every winter. And I know that the same level of activity, the same exercise, and yet somehow comes the winter and I fluff up a little bit and then comes the springtime and it kind of falls back off a little bit. So high level, what are we all just bears hibernating, like gathering our fat for the winter? What happens?
Well, I think there's a couple of things happening. One is, yes, we're hibernating more. We are also wearing looser clothes and big sweaters, and so we don't really have that tendency to, pay as much attention in the immediate short term. But we also probably crave and then eat heartier, richer foods. We want more stews and soups, and you could do split pea soup. You could have lots of healthy things, but often we crave more comforty type foods. And then another, which is really real, is some of that sweet summer fruit, like the watermelon, the cantaloupe, the cherries, they're not as readily available. So people often tend to nibble on the more fattening things as opposed to being able to just grab that sweet fruit. So some of those things are very real.
So let's talk about, so, but what, is there some reason that we're all, is there some evolutionary thing? And I don't know if there's anybody studied it that, why do I want to stew? It's comforting, it's rich, it's warm. Is there something else going on with our bodies? And I don't like to blame evolution because I always say it's my hand on the cookie, right? So if I'm eating a cookie, it's my choice. If I'm eating a stick of celery, it's my choice. But is there something that shifts us to these other kinds of food that warm us in the winter, or that help us, you know, prepare for, where evolutionary times it was harder times, so that we needed to store weight?
Well, I think there is sort of that tiny little bit of the evolution where, first of all, your metabolism is going to very slightly speed up in the cold if you're going outside and you're cold. And this is really if it's winter and you're cold. If it's Florida, there's not that much of a difference, or if you're in sunny California. Although for them, it's a little bit different. So there was that storage and that eating more in the winter storage, but really, so I don't think it's really that much an evolution thing. Yes, to eat a little bit more because your metabolism speeds up, but I think it stops there.
Right.
I think it tends to be more of a psychological
Mm,
type of craving and a habit. I think it's the psychological and the habitual that you're not going to crave celery and you're not going to crave a blueberry smoothie.
right.
But at the same time, you don't have to gain weight either in the winter if you're conscious of it and you make healthy choices that really are in the stews and in the soup family, as opposed to just a cold salad. Because you don't crave a cold salad when it's cold out. You just don't.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. And I don't feel right. Exactly. It's too heavy. I'm chilled already. Um,
Right.
One other thing I want to talk about, there's a lot of association that's talked about between vitamin D and weight gain, and that when you're vitamin D deficient, that you tend to gain more weight, that it's connected to obesity, vitamin D deficiency is, connected to all sorts of illness, but in particular that it's also connected to um, weight gain. And is the and again, as the days get shorter, it makes sense. We're not out as much and getting as much sunshine.
I think the real connection is, and as we had talked earlier, it's really important for viewers to understand the difference between an association and a cause and effect. And then also what it means for you as a person. So while we might see, or there has been some research that has shown that people who are overweight might be vitamin D deficient, but that does not mean that a vitamin D deficiency causes weight gain. So all that signal really means is, hey, check your vitamin D levels, especially in the winter. And if they're low, you might need to supplement because it is difficult to get it from foods, maybe from fortified dairy products, fortified nut milk, salmon, some protein-rich foods. But the one piece that does make sense, Sarah, is that we're not going outside as much and getting as much
Mhm.
exercise. And that could sooner lead to weight gain. And so the connection with vitamin D might even be the not going outside, which could affect mood and signal more stress and more eating. And it could also signal that we are not really getting enough exercise. And I think getting outside and exercising outdoors in real time, taking a walk, a bike ride when it's not snowy, is far better exercise. Not that treadmills are bad, but it's far better exercise than doing that walk on a treadmill or on a stationary bike. I do think you burn more calories when you really are outside. And so low vitamin D is my signal, hey, it's time to get outdoors.
Well, it doesn't take a lot. Again, vitamin D, you mentioned mood as well. Doesn't take a lot of time outside. 20 minutes outside, a little bit of a walk outside is really all that you need to be able to get enough vitamin D in the day.
And it
And
doesn't have to be sunny, it just has to be light.
yes,
And so people think I have to go to the beach to get my vitamin D, but
right,
that is not the case.
right. And nor does it have to be hit all your skin. Like ideally, it's nice in the summer when it hits all your skin. My understanding is if it just hits your eyes, that is enough to be
Yes.
able to do it, your face and your eyes.
Certain people have a tendency to be more deficient. People who are darker skinned are more likely to be deficient, and people who are overweight have a hard time making that vitamin D, so they might also need more. So it's sort of a catch-22. So I think getting your D levels checked is a great thing, also for immune health and for COVID outcomes. Just for COVID outcomes, more than weight, it would be worthwhile checking the D.
Yeah, this is my tour. You know, you just hit my rage of the week actually. And actually, if we can, hopefully we've got the story that we're literally just finished doing the story, and we can post it into the chat as well about vitamin D. Very high correlation between vitamin D deficiency and, as you said, COVID, getting COVID, being in the hospital with COVID, and then dying from COVID. And then I think like 80% of the people that are in the hospital with COVID are D deficient. The
Yeah.
numbers on, I'm blanking out, the numbers on death stats, it was like 8 times more likely to die of COVID if you were D deficient. So talk to your doctors. I'll just this little side ad for, please talk to your doctors about checking your D levels and potentially supplementing with vitamin D to help reduce your risk of COVID as well. All right, now that I've talked about that, let's go see what people can do about weight gain. The other act is holiday baking, of course, and we'll talk about all the food and all the delicious food that's around. No matter what the holiday, there's always some food that's exciting about it. All right, so strategies for avoiding that weight gain. And I think you and I had talked about getting back in that early morning sunlight to be able to improve your exercise, et cetera.
It's also good for your mood,
Yes.
and it also helps to regulate sleep.
Mhm.
Now, going out in the sun early in the morning, now we both have dogs, so getting outside early with the dog, without the dog, make an excuse, pretend you have a dog, really helps to regulate your circadian rhythm and also keep your sleep in check. And another reason for winter weight gain is you might be home more, you sleep, it gets dark at 4 o'clock in New York, maybe 5, but it does get darker earlier and you're out less, and that affects eating and sleeping.
Yeah, and I think there is also, isn't there a connection between um, the sleep and leptin? And if you sleep well, you do better, you have more leptin levels, and leptin is the hormone that suppresses
Appetite.
your appetite. So if you're sleeping badly, then also your appetite is higher.
Also, what do people eat when they're sleep deprived? They crave carbs and sugar, thinking that those carbs and sugar and cakes are going to give them an instant energy lift. And so what's going to happen is their blood sugar will go up, they'll have an instant energy lift, then it'll drop. And what do people crave when they're sleep deprived? Again, junk food.
Right. Well, I think that roller coaster is so important. I was just talking to someone about it this morning. You go up, you go down, and what do you do when you crash? You think that you're hungry again, and you put more carbs in it to be able to um, fill the energy void right away.
And it's the wrong carbs. Again, fruits and vegetables are carbs, beans are carbs, but that is not usually what people eat when they are sleep deprived.
Right. There's another interesting thing that we've written about in Bottom Line, which is sometimes people think they're hungry, but they're really dehydrated.
And you raise an important point, because in the summer, you know that you're going to be dehydrated, or you think you're going to be dehydrated, so you drink. In the winter, you think how could I possibly be dehydrated? But you actually can be. First of all, the heating system in many places, many apartment buildings, if you have a house, you can control it. But if the heat is on very high, that is very drying and you need more fluid. And people often tend to drink less fluids and less water and eat less fruits and vegetables that are high in
Right.
water content.
Right.
So you're thirsty, but you think that you're hungry, so you overeat. So always keep that glass of water. But hot water with lemon and herbal tea is also great in the winter.
Yeah. Well, and some of the symptoms of dehydration mimic symptoms of hunger. So you might feel lightheaded, you might be a little bit headachy. It's not necessarily if your palate feels dry, it's already too late. But some of those other things, people think that they're headachy or lightheaded, and they go, okay, I must have to eat, but drink the water first, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Or have fruits and vegetables and pay attention to the fact that you have more of them because they're high in water content. And another thing is if you're having salty foods and you're eating more processed foods, then you're having more salt, then you need even more water.
Mm-hmm. All right, then, true that. All right, let's go to that holiday food strategies. I love you've got a great phrase, and you use it for all the time, not necessarily holidays, but you talk about delay, don't deny, which when we're in the midst of holiday time, and there's treats all over, and again, whether it's now or whether it's chocolates for um, Valentine's Day or barbecues or whatever. Talk about that
I
gem.
think Yeah, I think it's so important not to deprive yourself of your favorite foods and to eat what you love. And so what happens is when you delay it, and I've done this a lot with clients, is you're saying, yes, I can have that cookie or that piece of cake or whatever it is that I love, but you're just not going to have it right now. And you're going to be more mindful, you're going to eat it more thoughtfully. And I think having it after dinner as a dessert treat is something that you have to look forward to. I think if you eat it first thing in the morning or, whenever, then it's like, what next could you eat? So, but I think it's so important to legalize it and allow yourself to have that treat, but just have it a little bit later.
So do you plan it like when you're going to have it that day versus you go, huh, I think I really want a cookie, or somebody sends you a big basket of goodies and you really want to have it now and you go, well, no, let me just hold it for later. Like, how much of it is planning versus how much of it is delaying the gratification and really kind of an exercise in self-control?
I think it's both. Because I think when you see that big basket that comes in, you're like, I want those cookies now, I shouldn't have them. It's always this association of I shouldn't have those
Right.
cookies, that basket. But no, I'm gonna, I'm eating this for dinner or whatever, and after dinner, I'm gonna have one of these delicious cookies with my tea or with while I'm doing whatever. And this way you don't look at it again, you don't think about it, and you know you can have it. If you say, oh, I can't have this, I'll save it for my kids, but I'm not eating it, then you're just going to eat all the broken pieces or you're going to eat the chips out of it and you're going to feel deprived and
Right.
you're going to feel very sort of restrained. And that is not a good place to be.
Right. So be in a reward mindset versus a deprivation mindset.
Absolutely.
Now, in the grand scheme of treats, everything from double hot fudge brownies to, I'll call it chocolate and Rice Krispie treats and hot and chocolate covered strawberries. Is there a realm of guilt or less bad or less fattening? Like, are there treats that people should tend toward? If you're craving chocolate anyway, like, is there a realm of if you're going to eat this, pick this one, not that one, besides portion size?
Yeah, I think if you do the chocolate covered strawberries, that's going to be better than a double chocolate cake or a brownie. Think
Mhm.
about it, because you're going to have the strawberries and they have no calories. And then you're just going to have the layer of chocolate. So you're going to put, 8 strawberries on a plate and it's, wow, I've got a big plate of stuff, as opposed to one tiny little dense, thick brownie
Right.
in calories, but you feel like it's nothing. So something like the chocolate covered fruit would definitely be better. But if you're craving that brownie or craving the other thing, have a small piece and do sort of the combo.
Now, some fruit desserts, you think that it's fruit, just like you think the taco salad at Taco Bell is good for you, but it's actually the most fattening thing on the menu. So some fruit desserts actually have a lot of hidden sugar in it.
They have a lot of hidden sugar, and they also have the butter,
Mhm.
and the pie crust could be expensive. You know, I mean, not expensive. The pie crust could be expensive when it comes to
Right,
calorie.
right.
It's your budget of calories for the day. So yes, it could be. But again, it's if you're making it yourself, which so many of us are doing now, and I say make your own holiday treats this year. You have a perfect excuse. See what goes into it. There's
Mhm.
butter, there's sugar, and there's very, very often more than you think. But you could do like really fun things, and you could do like grilled apples. You could do baked apples, and they're delicious. Like you literally can take slivered apples and you could put in a frying pan, add a little bit of olive oil, avocado oil, a different, pan, and put some apples, put some raisins. Just don't deep fry them, and they're good. So it's not the real thing, but it does count for something,
And it satisfies.
and it's satisfying, and
Right.
it's satisfying.
Um, dried fruits is a big thing at this time of year, and nuts are a big thing time at this time of year. Um, where do those stand in the world? And I know nuts are one of the healthiest things that you can eat, but they're so dense in calories.
Yeah, nuts are fattening, but they're also very, very healthy. So you want to think, I'm going to have a golf ball size or a layer of my palm's worth. And again, you're going to not eat out of the bag
Mm.
or out of the tin or wherever you have it from. People go to Costco and they get the thing of nuts, those Kirkland nuts, which are delicious. But
Mhm.
each cashew is the size of your head. And
Yeah.
it is such a big thing. You've got to take a portion, put it on a plate, and eat it sitting. And research has found that nut eaters are usually thinner and healthier than non-nut eaters.
Mhm.
Why? They're not eating nuts and M&Ms or and cookies, but they're having the nuts in place of the cookies. So nuts are definitely, there's a place for them, but portions, portions, portions. Same with dried fruit. You know, a cup of raisins or a cup of grapes. A cup of grapes is full of water, and so it's going to be less than half of the calories of something like raisins. So raisins and dried fruit are very, very caloric because they're dehydrated, so they lose all the water.
Right.
Again, have them, but it's also going to be about portion control. Yes, there's sugar, but the sugar is natural sugar, unless, like some of those pineapples, are added sugar on top where you could see it.
Which is so funny. I was just gonna say, there are some dried fruits where they add sugar, and pineapple in particular, which is gotta be the sweetest fruit out there. And yet they drown. I love it, or I used to eat it, but it's crazy. So just because it says fruit doesn't mean it's healthy. And again, dried fruits, there is a lot of sugar in there. So to your point, the portion control. What's an appropriate portion size for dried fruits?
About a quarter of a cup. So a quarter of a cup of raisins is about the same calories as 1 cup of grapes. So
Okay.
you have a choice. But I'm going to tell you a trick. I find frozen fruit is delicious. Frozen blueberries are delicious, and frozen grapes are delicious. Sometimes you just don't want grapes. But when you freeze them, and even frozen dried fruit, like frozen dates and figs,
Mhm.
takes longer to eat and it gives you that sort of treat feeling. So I urge you to put your dried fruit in the freezer and also your regular fruit. Very good.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, someone asked a question, Rebecca asked about if frozen fruits and vegetables are really a good replacement when fresh isn't available. Um,
The answer is yes. I always keep a bag or two of frozen vegetables at all times. You want to make sure that the frozen veggies or the fruit are plain and that the fruit ones don't have added sugar on them and that the veggies don't have an added sauce on them.
right.
But if they're plain, they're actually picked at the height of ripeness. So they, believe it or not, they retain even more nutrients than fresh.
Yeah, that's actually a surprise that people don't realize because they're flash frozen at the end versus the stuff that gets in our grocery store might have left the fields weeks before and before it turned right. Do you have any favorite ways though to cook them or treat them or prepare them? Because frozen vegetables get a little mushy.
Well, if you put them in the microwave and you saute them in the frying pan, and
Mhm.
if you add, I love toasted sesame oil. And I think that adding a little bit of toasted sesame oil is yummy, yummy, yummy. And putting them into things like adding them into stews or rice dishes or quinoa dishes, then you really can't tell so
Yeah.
much. But there, you don't want to just have steamed frozen vegetables. Those don't taste good.
Right.
When you add some kind of a sauce to them, and a little bit of sauce is okay, or you add an oil that you like. I just love toasted sesame oil or even olive oil. They make them a lot tastier.
Mm. My daughter, I've talked on these before about what a good cook my daughter is. And since she's been home since COVID, she's working, but been home with us. So she's been cooking a lot, and her favorite thing, pepper flakes go into almost everything. And she's been, big on a little bit of sprinkle of cayenne pepper or just pepper flakes. In vegetables in particular, they've been, just kind of kicks it up a notch, as Emery used to say.
So does garlic powder, and so does like those little onion flakes. I mean, those are also good.
Yeah. Yeah. And this has been a great opportunity to experiment with different seasonings as well. You can't really go so far wrong. I mean, go play with all those things that have been hidden in the cupboard, right? And see what they
Right.
like. All right. Back to holiday baking. You talk about, baking, but okay, so now I baked all my cookies and I got this huge thing. Just a reminder, people don't necessarily have to bake the full batch, correct? Especially if we're not going to all the parties. We're not producing all the tins of cookies for everybody that we did. So just a reminder, you don't have to do that full batch. And there are other strategies to do to limit the temptation.
Ziploc baggies are your best friends. And they don't have to be the Ziploc brand. It doesn't, whatever brand you like, but literally you could take a couple and you could freeze them in individual baggies. And you don't want to keep them all out because you'll eat more.
Yeah.
And if you make 4 different types of cookies, you'll taste all 4. If you just make one type, chances are you'll eat a little bit less. But really and truly, either make half the recipe, give a bunch away, and freeze them. They will definitely freeze well, and then you can have your cookie when you want it.
And you can have a variety if you make a variety of cookies.
Yes, that's exactly true. So the freezer is your friend.
Do you get yourself have a treat every day, or is it just like once a week you get yourself?
I do something every day, and I really believe if you could do a treat, whatever that is. It could be one cookie, it could be half a cup of frozen yogurt, it could be, a peppermint patty, a piece of chocolate, something that you like. I think it's completely fine. And in my book, I have in my food plan in both the portion teller and in Finally Full, Finally Slim. I say it, one treat a day is fine. It could even be a glass of wine. And it really helps people stick to their food plan and do better.
Yeah. Can we just do a quickie on your portions? I'm forever, you're in my head every time I cook, and I'm trying to figure out portions. So Lisa has her methodology, and the Portion Teller book is a fabulous book. And she's got these, games so that you can figure out, because you don't run around with your measuring cups. So, but you always have your hand. So can you do just a quick rundown of your portion sizes, your portable portion measurer?
Yeah. First of all, if you are a man, you could eat more because you have a bigger hand. So this is not an exact science, and it's okay, but just a couple of typical visuals. I don't know if you can see my hand.
I can see it.
There's the dog. Sorry.
There's the dog, and there's mom over your shoulder, and I love that.
So 3 ounces is like the palm of your hand. So give or take, and if you have 4 ounces, it's not a big deal, but 3 ounces would look like a steak or something.
And that's for protein, basically, if you're going to have a meat.
If you're going to have meat, but you can have a little bit more, but I say, figure 3 to 4 ounces. Mm-hmm. 2 fingers, like peace sign, is cheese, like an ounce of cheese. And this is really like when you go into holiday parties and there's cubes of cheese and you just eat more cheese than you have 10 fingers worth, you've had too much cheese. So think 2 things of cheese.
So does that mean 2 fingers? Because I can get a lot of cubes of cheese into my 2 fingers. So is it the length?
That's or like 8 dice.
Yeah.
Which would be like, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That would be fine. Then you also want to think like a fist is about a cup's worth of pasta, rice, or let's say Cheerios or some kind of a cereal. Mm-hmm. Or popcorn. you gotta have 3 cups of popcorn, so 3 cup, three, and then sort of a cupped hand, 1 cupped hand would be about a half a cup's worth. So if you're doing a half a cup of starch, then that would be like about a half a cup.
Right.
And then, a thumb tip, it would be more the tip to the top. That would be the equivalent of like a tablespoon of peanut butter or oil. And then a teaspoon would be one of the other fingers.
Mm-hmm.
So one of your smaller fingers. And
That-
it's just a guide, it's not an exact science, but it really just sort of helps you get into that groove of how many decks of cards are on your plate of steak. You could have 2, you could have 6 ounces, but then it's 2 palms, 2 decks of cards, as opposed to, 10 palmfuls.
Can anyone ever eat too many vegetables? It's like you want to measure your protein, you want to measure your grains, you want to measure your fats, but you don't have like a, you know, a vegetable measure or a salad measure. And I joke with family members about like, they'll take the least amount of vegetables sometimes. And I'm like, you could have more of that. You're not, limit the cheese, but have at it at the green stuff.
I think fruits and vegetables, and even fresh fruit like berries, are freebies. Nobody got fat from carrots or even bananas or blueberries or greens. What you put on that salad is important. And as you talked earlier, you could get the most fattening salad because it's glove full of dressing, crouton, and cheese. So when you go out, just because it's a salad doesn't mean that it's not going to be fattening. But I think when it comes to veggies, I always have the eat more mentality. And I like to look at weight gain in the context, not of fear, but of wellness. You want to avoid winter weight gain by making healthier choices, eating more mindfully, and putting wellness on the table, not eating diet food, but having foods that are good for you that also taste good as well.
And do some of that, the more vegetables and fruits that you're eating, like they're not as heavy, so that, to the point earlier about we're tired in the winter and we're slower in the winter, that the lightness of the vegetables isn't as heavy. Like it doesn't force us to go take a nap afterward in the same way. So does it help with the energy levels at all?
I think if we eat very big meals, our energy levels go down. I mean, so I think that to keep our energy stable, I think if we have lighter meals, but we don't just want to have vegetables or fruit, because we want to have some protein too.
Yeah.
So to keep our energy stable, I think we want to make sure that we have fish, chicken, beans and legumes are great. Lentils, chickpeas are terrific. Really, so those are very helpful too.
Yeah. Someone was asking me, Sarah asked about canned vegetables. How are those nutritionally, relative to frozen, which you said is so great? What about canned?
Canned vegetables would be second, or canned fruits would be second to the frozen. Why? Because of the sodium content. If they're very, very low in sodium, then I think they're okay. But sometimes if you just rinse them off, like I know, like if you buy chickpeas in a can and you rinse them, you get rid of most of the added salt. So that would really be the only problem, as long as there's no other sauces hidden in there. If it's fruit, very often the fruit could be lined with syrup, and that's something you want to limit.
Right. Got it. Okay. Um, Exercise and consumption. Something that, people think about a lot is I need to exercise to lose weight or to keep, and there's no reason everyone needs to exercise, but consumption is really the key to weight. What goes in, what goes out. Like the key in gaining weight or losing weight is how much you actually consume. Yes.
Yes, exercise does help though.
Right.
But exercise alone doesn't do anything. I think it was like a week or two ago, the CDC came out with a new report. I think they recommend like 150 minutes a week for like weight maintenance, and that's spread out over the entire week. And they said, if you're just thinking weight loss, it's got to be 300 minutes. So the point being that exercise, diet, or I don't like to say diet, lifestyle changes that are positive, that are going to be fewer in calories, plus exercise will help. But exercise alone, you're going to have to do lots and lots of it in order to get you to lose the weight. So I think a combination is best.
Yeah. Now, how do people do it? So some people start exercising, and it definitely maintains the tone. Some people start exercising and then they get hungry. So it's almost like they shoot themselves in the foot on consumption. Like they exercise and they go, oh, I thought I exercise, I exercised a lot. So then they almost increase their consumption sometimes. How do they have, advice or suggestions on balancing the post-workout hunger, or, the mindset that says, oh, I exercised today, so I get free passes?
Yeah, that's a mindset, because exercise alone, unless you're running a marathon or you're really doing a lot of extra exercise that causes a deficit of calories, chances are the kind of exercise most people are doing is not going to necessarily make them that much hungrier. So I think what's going on in a lot of cases is reward, reward, reward. They're thinking in their head, okay, I did this treachery that I didn't like. I exercised. So now I'm going to eat something. But I like to look at it somewhat differently. I like to look at exercise as just like eat what you love, do what you love. I mean, I love swimming. I love outdoor bike riding, walking. Even when I was in New York, I would walk. I hate treadmills and I don't like those indoor machines. So I
Yeah.
don't want to. But if you do an exercise you like, movement, house walking, if you take your dog out or just take a walk in the snow, that, believe it or not, burns a lot more calories than you think. And then the exercise is movement, and you don't really have to worry so much about the eating. I
Right.
think we don't really, we can't eat more because we're exercising. We're exercising, and that's good for our health, and that will allow us to have a treat or allow us to have a little bit more. It will be great to maintain the weight loss, but just to lose the weight, exercise alone isn't necessarily going to do it. And you're probably not exercising so much that your hunger level is so high that you then have to go in and eat.
Now, I've watched people who like, I ran today. I ran for 20 minutes. I can, therefore give me the chocolate cake, right? So, and that's okay. And I sometimes I joke that the reason that I do exercise, besides that I feel good, is so I can eat my chips. Like I know that I have a chip habit and it's terrible, but it's my one vice. But
Okay.
I just do. It's, there's so many things I don't eat, but so that it's like, okay, so I joke that I exercise because then I know that I can balance it a little bit.
What are your favorite chips, and when do you like them?
Um, I like salty corn chips or potato chips, actually.
Okay.
I like thinner ones. My Utz is my favorite brand.
Okay.
If Utz is out there, send me chips. Um, I like I like thin light ones. I don't like the kettle cooked ones. I think they're way too heavy. And honestly, I will do it. Like I will crave carbs and I will crave salt. Like when I get off this, I will crave it. When I've done a lot of brain work, your brain functions on glucose, right? And I don't eat sugar. So I will crave that after I've done a lot of work or I've done a lot of like heavy brain stuff.
So I'm going to say, take, like a fistful of chips, whatever. And if this is the time of day that you like it, put it on a plate. Don't eat it standing. Don't open the cupboard and just start nibbling. Put it on a plate, sit down and enjoy it. And that's for everyone. I could do without chips, but I love sourdough pretzels, those big fat sourdough
Mhm.
pretzels. And I'll crave it about now too, around 4 or 5 o'clock. But
Yeah.
I'll allow myself to have them. Yes, it's white flour, but if that's the only white flour I eat, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Same thing with you. It's okay to have the chips. It's not okay to have the bag of chips every day.
Yeah. Well, and so that was the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is your point of eating mindfully. And that's something in the winter, it's easy. We're all kind of bundled in and it's right nearby and you're sitting on the couch. It's easy to take that whole bag and just stick it with you. So talk about mindful eating.
Mindful eating is so important, as is mindful living, because when you are eating mindfully, first of all, your chances are you're not multitasking. So you're not eating, standing, watching TV, looking at your phone at the same time, because then you're not paying attention to the fact that you're eating. So you want to concentrate on the act of eating. Mindful eating also helps you to eat more slowly. You don't have to chew and count your bites and become crazy. but it just forces you to slow down and ask yourself, am I hungry? And there was actually research that found that even though mindful eating is not a weight loss tool, it does lead to weight loss. And it's, I find, better than a dieting type of strategy because it's something that is good for you and it's something that you can live with every day. You don't want to go, the best diet to go on is the one you don't even know you're on.
Right.
And when you eat mindfully and you get into that habit of always recognizing internal signals, eating when you're sitting, putting your fork down between bites, enjoying the company, you end up eating less and you're more satisfied with what you ate.
Yeah, and really thinking about what those flavors and the richness of it. And I've even found when, there's a lot of fake food out there, which is absolutely unsatisfying. And when you have, like if we'll go to a bakery, there's somebody where we'll go get fabulous sourdough bread and they have amazing cookies. So every so often we'll get a cookie. One little bite of that is so satisfying because it's all great ingredients, butter, like the whole bit, but it's so satisfying because it's real
Mhm.
versus fake, which
Totally.
simply just stimulates the sugar, just sends you on that cycle of more, more, more.
No, totally. I totally agree. I totally agree. And you really just have to kind of pay attention, know what you're going to have, and do it mindfully.
Absolutely. And we talked already about right sizing portions. We talked about, so one other thing, people, you and I had talked about earlier about eating at your desk, um, which is also a place where people can be mindless when they're eating.
Yeah, I think sometimes we also, especially now, and I know we're all zoomed out, but I think if you want to concentrate and do something, have a Zoom lunch with a colleague, or have a Zoom meeting, or have with a friend, and then sort of you're eating at your desk in a sense, but you're eating slowly, you're paying attention. You could eat at your desk, but you don't want to be eating at your desk mindlessly while you're doing emails, while you're doing something else, and then you pay no attention to the food.
Right.
Ideally, you want to just stop, take that 15 minutes, eat, enjoy it while you're not doing something else.
Well,
But
and
do
again, the classic reminder that what is it? It takes 20 minutes for your stomach to catch up to your head.
exactly.
For all the Hoovers out there.
Yeah, so it takes about 20 minutes, give or take, to signal fullness.
Mhm.
So to recognize, hey, I'm full, you've got to really slow down before you grab and go for the seconds. And if you eat slowly, that'll take at least 10, 15 minutes. So then you just wait another couple of minutes before you go back for more.
Yeah, which is great. And then double check, are you hungry? Or is it like that mouth? You just want another bite of it because it tasted so good. Right.
And you know what else? You know what else? Talking about eating at your desk.
Right.
Don't eat at your bag. Take nice plates. Put your food on the plates. Treat yourself well and enjoy it. That makes such a difference than if you just take these paper plates or you're just eating out of a tin that you got the food from.
Mhm.
Really enjoy it. Treat yourself well. Make yourself like a queen, and savor it.
Yeah. And are you a small person, a small plate recommender?
I'm not a tiny plate recommender, but the middle-sized plate. I think if the plate is too small, then you feel deprived. If the
Right.
plate is too big, take that palm-sized steak and you put it on a tremendous plate, it looks like nothing.
Right.
You put it on a 9-inch plate instead of a 12-inch plate, much better. Add broccoli, add lots of veggies, and add a little bit of starch, and you're fine. So if the plate is tremendous, like these charger plates, then you're going to put way too much on that plate.
And we've all been fooled through, going to restaurants, just that everything is supersized. I had read something where like the size of, drinks years ago, 20, 30 years ago, the size of a burger was like a 3-ounce burger. The size of a soft drink was 6 or 8 ounces, and everything now is supersized. And our whole perception of a portion has gotten distorted to be these ginormous portions.
Yep, that's why I write about, I call it portion distortion.
Yeah.
So we think that an oversized portion is normal. And it's the norm, and it's become the norm. And the problem is, since it's become the norm, we think, oh, okay, I can have it. And if it's a small, like go to Starbucks, the small coffee is a tall, you know.
Mhm.
And so we think I'm buying the small, it's okay because it's called small, but even the small is too big. I mean,
Right.
one thing you don't miss about movie theaters are the sizes of their sodas. And
Two hands. Um, and that's something for people to be conscious of again in the winter. If we're slowing down, if our metabolism is slowing down, to really be extra careful about portion size and not to let it, ooze into giant size.
definitely, definitely, definitely. And to get outside, bundle up, even if it's cold.
Mhm.
You know, go out, go out for that walk, go out for that bike ride when there's not snow on the ground, because you also feel better. And so there's a connection, I think. I mean, a small portion of people, not everybody, do have seasonal affective disorder where their mood is going to be affected very much because of the darkness. And so I think even though not everyone has SAD, seasonal affective
Right.
disorder, many, many people, or most of us, I don't know anyone who likes the day after we change the clocks in November, and it affects your mood. So getting outside early in the day really will help us eat less and eat better as well.
Absolutely. All right. I have one more question. We were talking about the snacking and when do I snack? Another time that a lot of people get their snack attacks is at like 10 o'clock at night,
Mhm.
which is the worst time for a snack. What's your thoughts or recommendations on that?
I think pick a healthy snack for that time. Or it depends. If you go to bed at 1 in the morning, it's not so terrible. But if you go to bed at 11, again, the heavier the food, it's going to sit on you. So I think, a smoothie is something good. And even though, yes, it's winter, believe it or not, I think like having a smoothie, if you're inside, could actually be a good thing. I could have a smoothie at night, and I have clients who really do like them, even though it is the winter, because it's sort of fun. You know what else is good? Take a banana, peel a banana, add a little bit of peanut butter on it, put it in the freezer. So you can have that, or a graham cracker with a little bit of peanut butter. You don't want the snack to be high in sugar. So you don't want caffeine like a lot of chocolate, because that will affect your sleep later on when you go to sleep.
What's your favorite smoothie?
I like blueberries, peanut powder, a little bit of almond. I love the peanut powder, a little bit of almond milk.
Mhm.
Never heard of like the PB2 or the peanut butter. Oh, it's like a peanut powder. It's like
Wow.
the powder, and it's awesome. It's delicious.
Mhm.
So I take frozen blueberries, maybe a little bit of spinach. Sometimes I'll throw in some kiwi or some banana, the peanut butter powder, ice. It's delicious, and some almond milk, vanilla flavored almond milk. Delicious.
Love it. Okay, wait, someone's asking me a question. Do you have a healthy recipe for hot chocolate?
I don't have a healthy recipe off the top of my head, but they make those hot chocolates like they make them with lower sugar. So you want to get one that is a lower sugar one, and I think that will make all the difference. Some have higher sugar, and you just buy the packets and add a little bit more water to it, or you could add some non-fat milk or a little bit of like the vanilla flavored almond milk is something that's going to be good with it also.
How about if you make it at home? We've always made it at home because the packets are so full of sugar. So just take some cocoa and then does honey have any difference versus sugar?
Honey is still like sugar, so you could do a little bit of honey. You'll use less of it. You also could do a little bit of maple syrup. Yeah.
Okay. Now the questions are coming in. Come on, folks.
I like, you know what else I like? Like even taking just chocolate powder
Yes.
and sprinkling that on fruit, or putting a little bit of that in the smoothie. If you're a chocolate lover, I'm a peanut butter lover, so I love the peanut powder. So if you took some cocoa, a little bit of cocoa, but again, it's going to have caffeine, so be careful. Do that earlier, not do that as a 4 o'clock snack or 8 o'clock, not 10 o'clock, and added that with the berries into a smoothie. That'll really give you some chocolate fix.
Yeah. Nice. All right. I have another question, which is, how about are vegetables in vinegar, like that are jarred in vinegar, good for your digestion?
Yeah, they're fermented.
Yeah.
So yes, they actually are. Also sauerkraut. Sauerkraut's made of combat. It's very, very high in sodium, but because it's fermented, that and pickles, kimchi are excellent for the gut and for your digestive system. Yep.
Great. And then how about breads? How about Ezekiel toast or any breads, but your preferred breads?
I
Uh,
love I love the Ezekiel. The
mhm.
Ezekiel toast is great, or any whole grain. I happen to like the taste of the Ezekiel, but it's important to have something that's whole grain, 100% whole grain. Beware of words like multigrain. Multigrain only means 2 or more grains. So if the first ingredient in that grain is enriched wheat flour, and then it has, all the different vitamins that are added, you think it's health food, but it's just the same as white bread.
Right. And same thing like gluten-free breads, which a lot of people think that gluten-free, because it says gluten-free on the label, it becomes a nutritional pass. But those are actually really super high in glycemic index and super low in nutritional value. Yeah.
Very, very low. I happen to love, there's a brand and it's kosher as well, if anyone is kosher, because I happen to be kosher. It's called Food for Life.
Mhm.
And you get it in the refrigerator section, and it's an Ezekiel bread, and it's so delicious. And I'm not a paid spokesperson. So
But if anyone wants to send Lisa some Food for Life bread, then that would be okay by her. All right, Lisa, thank
you have to be very careful of, if someone is peddling a product and they're a spokesperson and they're recommending it,
yeah.
there could potentially be a conflict of interest. So I just happen to like that bread. And they also make really delicious English muffins as well.
Great. All right. Dr. Lisa Young, you're fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your website, drlisayoung.com. If anybody wants to learn more about Lisa, get her books. They're amazing. And have a very happy holiday. And we again.
Shoot me an email, and you can get my email, lisa@drlisayoung.com.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, go have a great, healthy, enjoy the snow night and weekend.
Happy holidays. Have a treat.